is not fair. All the girls.
Let's start with the unfair and slowly work our way towards the most brutal matchups on the list. Number 10, blind fighters. Antibadia were criminals who would be forced to fight completely blind. They would be given a straight sword and a helmet for protection. And slowly work our way towards the most brutal matchups on the list. Number 10, the helmet was practically a curse, since it was completely sealed off, preventing the fighter from seeing or breathing anything. Okay. The fight would begin as soon as the fighters were placed within close range of one another, with the most popular strategy being the swing and pray method, which in all honesty was the only strategy available. Now, the good news is that judges weren't really needed for these fights, since the winners were very easy to identify, as they were the only contestants still breathing. Now, the crazy part is that this spectacle was seen as comedic relief more than anything.
That is crazy.
And if you don't think two blind men fighting each other to the death is hilarious, well, you have a lot to learn about comedy. Now, this might not sound that unfair.
It does sound kind of funny.
Since both men are equally blind and equipped with the same weapon. But think again. Since the winner of the match would typically be rewarded with another match. And another one. And another one. And another one. You get the point. As you can imagine, a winning streak never really lasted for very long.
What?
Number 9, naval battles. There was nothing more epic.
And Gladiator 2, they had these bitches, bro. I thought this was fake. This is real. This is cold as hell, boy. They brought in the ocean.
The naval battles of the Colosseum. Also, one of the most unfair, bloody, and expensive. The event would begin by filling the Colosseum with water and around a dozen ships. It's estimated that thousands of prisoners would participate in these events. But let's talk about what made these battles unfair.
This would be
so
cool.
Depending on the starting position of your ship, it could determine your likelihood of survival.
If you're in the middle, you're fucked.
Well, at least for a bit longer, as the odds of survival were almost non-existent to begin with. Ships that started in between two other ships would make for an easy target, easily creating a 1v2 scenario. Prisoners would invade other ships, killing everyone that stood in their way, while others would simply use the more popular strategy we see today, which is, of course, running away from all fights and sneaking their way to the final round, where they can hope to steal the win with a single kill. The bloody fight would come to an end when there was only one ship or team remaining.
It's that PUBG method.
As these battles were, at least they were easy to clean up. The Romans would try their best to remove all the large debris from the water, before the stadium would be flushed like a giant toilet bowl, sending all the remains downstream for another town to deal with.
That's pretty
Number
dope.
8, gladiator fights. Gladiator fights were the single most popular matches of the Colosseum, with the good matchups typically being saved for the main event. Now, how can two gladiators fighting each other be unfair, you might ask? Well, for starters, the emperors weren't really interested in fairness, as their primary concern was entertainment. And with over 20 different classes of gladiators to choose from, the styles would be mixed and matched based on entertainment alone. Here are some of the most unfair and popular matchups. Retiarius versus Secutor. Retiarius were equipped with a net, a trident, a dagger, and minimal armor, while the Secutor was equipped with a sword, a large shield, a helmet, and heavy armor. Go ahead, pick one.
Not the net.
If you chose the Secutor, well, GG's, you're dead.
What?
As the Retiarius just had to keep his distance and poke at the Secutor. Or better yet, trap him by throwing his net on him, giving him enough time to emote before poking him to death.
Damn.
Alright, let's try another one. Murmillo versus Thorax.
Okay, we can do this one.
Murmillo were armed with a large rectangular shield, a short sword, a helmet, and a metal or leather sleeve for protection.
Okay.
While the Thorax was equipped with a light shield, a curved sword, a helmet, and a metal or leather sleeve for protection.
I'm going with Jason.
Go ahead, pick one.
Jason, because he got the little shield.
If you chose the Murmillo, rip, you're dead.
Yup.
As the Thorax just had to tire out the Murmillo.
Too heavy.
He was carrying the heavier shield.
I told you.
As you can see, stylistic matchups were a big deal and could
What did I
easily
say?
influence the outcome of a fight.
But what did I
And
say,
know
though?
This might come as a shock to
But what did I
some,
say,
but not all
bitch?
gladiator fights were to the death. A lot of fights would be called off when a fighter took heavy damage, since good gladiators were very expensive to replace.
We want them to fight to the death.
Animal battles. Humans were not the only ones to have their matchups inside of the Colosseum, since animals were also
Lions,
treated
tigers,
like criminals.
bears.
They would be enslaved, pinned against each other, and humiliated. And was such a popular spectacle that at times, thousands of animals would be slaughtered in a given day.
Kind of cool. It's not cool, like, yeah. But like, you know, these niggas could have did all the they probably did do all the what if animal fights, you know? They had a motherfucking grizzly bear and fighting a gorilla type shit. They had all type of 1v1s in here. You know, they had the hippo versus the rhino, the lion versus the tiger, all types of shit that we've been wanting to see. Goddamn, a wolf versus a fucking cat adjacent, like a fucking cheetah baby, a leopard.
Which was completely unsustainable, driving
Damn.
many animals to extinction.
What?
Here are some of the most popular and unfair matchups that were commonly seen in the Colosseum. Elephant versus rhino.
Yeah.
One of the most famous Colosseum
That's
battles
hard.
was when
That's
an
what I'm
enraged
talking
rhino
about.
was pinned against an elephant, with the elephant eventually winning when he decided to cheat by grabbing a spear with its trunk and gouging the rhino's eyes out. Lion versus tiger. This matchup is basically a
Here
robbery.
we go.
As I'm
Tiger.
sure the locals would have bet large amounts of money against the guys from out of town, since they knew that the lion always wins.
Really?
With there only being one recorded incident of a tiger getting the best of a lion. Elephant versus bull. As you can imagine.
Wait, the lion wins? Can we learn more about that? What's up? I thought the tiger is bigger, stronger, faster, more stealthy, and they fight alone. How's the lion winning that fight?
Of a tiger getting the best of a lion. Elephant versus bull. As you can imagine, when an animal has over 10,000 pounds on its opponent, it's not really going to be much of a fight, is it?
Not a fight at all.
But just to make matters worse, sometimes the elephant and the bull would be chained together,
That's so
forcing
dope.
the action. And no matter how the fight begins, it would always end with the bull being turned to soup.
Ew.
Really quickly, here are some of the other animal fights that were very popular. Rhino versus bear.
Yes.
Rhino versus buffalo.
Yes.
Rhino versus elephant.
Yes.
Crocodile versus hippo.
Ooh.
Tiger versus bear.
Ooh.
Bear versus bull. Bear versus wolves.
Bro, come on. Wolves? Come on, like some of these matchups, bro. Like, come on. Oh, I know you wanted to watch. Bro, can we not bring some of these back? I was just thinking about this shit, bro. Oh my gosh, this would
Goro
be so
versus
cool.
scorpion.
Yes.
Lion versus bull. Lion versus bear.
Yes.
Lion versus panther.
Ooh.
Lion versus chimp.
Ooh.
Lion versus hyenas. Lion versus basically any animal the Romans can get a hold of. Number 6.
They had the lions in there boxing, boy. Them lions was in there fighting.
1 versus 2. This matchup can be unfair for either side depending on the circumstances. Let me explain. There are 2 scenarios in which this matchup can take shape. 1. A high-level gladiator will take on 2 prisoners simultaneously, and as the prisoners try their best to figure out how to properly hold a sword, they will realize that it's very difficult to do so, since their hands are no longer attached. Now, the second scenario is a bit more fair. 3 well-trained gladiators were placed inside of the Colosseum. One gladiator would be given heavy armor and a good weapon, while his 2 opponents would receive minimal armor and worse weapons. The duo would need to work together to defeat the better equipped
That's
man.
kinda cool.
But being
That's kinda
partnered
cool.
up is not as easy as you might think, and does come with its own set of challenges, like knowing whether you should go for the res or attempt to clutch up when your partner inevitably.
Man, I just wish I could go back to these times and watch some of these fights, bro. What the
goes down.
fuck?
The last and final way that a gladiator can be outnumbered is during large-scale
Yeah!
battles. This one is, of course, purely based on luck alone, and doesn't always mean that you will see a 1v2 matchup, as it just might be a 1v6 depending on how bad your team is. Number 5. Woman versus dwarf. Emperor Domitian introduced the legendary...
Bro, what? Hold on, time. Who y'all got? All right, who y'all got? Women or the little person? Women v little person? Bro, I might go woman, bro. I'm sorry. They're too
matchup,
tall.
Woman versus dwarf. And I have to admit, this is the only battle on the list where a clear winner was not well documented.
What?
Even with the little information we do have, I have a
He
gut
was in there.
feeling that it just wasn't a fair matchup. I'm just not certain for whom. You see, on one hand, you have a fully grown woman who obviously has the reach advantage.
Yeah.
While on the other hand, you have a male dwarf who is much stronger and obviously uses magic. How much stronger? Well,
He's
I'm
a
not
dwarf.
sure. I did, however, stumble upon this forum where a guy asked the same question back in 2011. Now, sadly, people just replied back with even more interesting questions that we will never get the answers to. And of course, naturally, the entire forum devolved into guys just
Like a Labrador, like the dog? Bro, my money on the dog, bro.
bragging about how many dwarves they can take on at once. One of the most bizarre things about this matchup was that Emperor Domitian liked to schedule this fight at night, since he preferred this battle when it was illuminated by torchlights.
So
in
cool.
2010, a female gladiator's remains were found in England. After they were examined, it was concluded that the woman's legs and arm bones were unusually heavy, suggesting that she had strong muscles. You know, I was originally leaning towards the dwarf, but now I really don't see how they could possibly win.
That's what I'm saying,
Number
right?
4,
Like, it's gotta
wild
be the
animal
woman.
hunts. Perhaps one of the most unique spectacles of the Colosseum was the wild animal hunts. Here, the entire Colosseum arena was made to resemble the animal's natural environment.
What?
A few men were then brought out to the arena equipped with small shields
So
and
clean.
weapons. Then for the next few minutes or hours, the arena would be slowly filled with terrifying predators. But if they really wanted to get the crowd on their feet, all the animals would be released at once.
Oh my
Sometimes the
god.
men who were fighting the lions, bears, and panthers would have been well-trained fighters, while other times they would have been condemned criminals who were just given the death sentence and stood 0 to no chance of winning. Here are some of the animals you could have expected to make an
Oh
appearance.
my god.
Lions, tigers, bears,
Oh my god.
elephants, rhinos, panthers, leopards, hyenas.
Oh, nigga. You in there with a leopard and a panther and a hyena? Dog, you have a sword? You gotta swing the fuck out that shit. You gotta be swinging hard as hell.
Wolves, boars,
Wolves!
bulls, deer, ostriches,
A pack?
crocodiles,
An
giraffes.
ostrich, boy. Put me in there with the ostrich, nigga. Fuck it. Y'all take the crocodile. You handle the giraffe. Give me the ostrich. Give me my shield. I'll take this one.
Camels, and shipwrecks.
I wouldn't even want to fight the rat. The camel, though, I could get with a camel.
Of course,
Who's fighting a
shipwrecks were
camel?
not invited, but they showed up anyways. Number 3, Man vs. Beast. Man vs. Beast matches were one-on-one battles.
One-on-one
that were
versus the
second
animals.
most popular spectacle, only behind gladiator fights.
This is so cool. So cool.
Now, there were basically 2 ways that this matchup would be arranged, with both of them tailored for maximum entertainment for the crowd.
Maximum.
The first one was when a professional slave or volunteer fighter known as a bestiarius would face off with a terrifying beast. The animal could be anything from a lion, leopard, tiger, bear,
Gorilla?
or any other large and powerful creature.
Like a gorilla.
These battles would typically end with the animal being defeated, even if the bestiarius took heavy damage. On the other hand, the second matchup was much more bloody and typically ended with the man being torn to pieces.
What's
Here,
that?
a criminal or prisoner of war would be forced to face off with the animal. With little to no training, it was only a matter of time before the man would become an anatomy lesson.
Yikes.
And it definitely didn't help that the animals were starved for long periods of time before they were brought out,
Oh.
making them more angry and aggressive. There was even a single
They have them bloodlusted. They got these animals bloodlusted. I was wondering, like, you know, how they just get them all to fucking be boxing like this? But I guess you had them like this in the torture chamber. They said, let me out. I mean, you got a fucking tiger in there, fucking hungry in there. Look at this nigga eyes. Look at he's drooling at the mouth. He said, yeah, nigga, let me in on that. How do you protect the people? Kid, that shit.
lion that
Jump
took
into
out
the
over
crowd?
200 men before it was
God.
finally defeated.
Oh my
Which is obviously
God.
a padded record, since
Oh
it clearly
my
fought
God.
nothing but tomato cans.
200.
I should also mention, there is another event that was
200.
very popular and is somewhat
That nigga loved the taste of human meat. He caught 200 bodies. 200 human bodies in the ring. That nigga got a better record than fucking Floyd Mayweather. This nigga 201. Come on, bro. That's nice. That's cold. He might be the coldest in the ring ever, bro. That lion is the coldest nigga to ever touch a ring. 201. All by death. That nigga won 201. He won every single time by death, nigga. Nobody ever walked away from their fucking fight with him. 200 confirmed deaths in the ring. Come on, who fucking with him? Except for that one. I gotta see who that one nigga was. He's probably too old. It's like when Muhammad Ali and fucking Larry Holmes, right?
related, where a criminal was tied to a stake and then a wild animal would be released.
Oh
to eat
my
him
God.
alive. You know,
Oh
you would
my
think that
God.
this would be one of those situations where if you've seen it once, then
Oh.
you've seen them all type of deal. But apparently some
They
emperors
tied
like to
him
show
up?
this one quite often.
Why would you tie him up? I feel like you just put him out there with no gear, right? You didn't just put him out there with no sword, no helmet, no nothing like that, and just let them go out there with the motherfucking with the beastesses. For super reason. Is it still from the
Number
game?
2, Prisoner versus Professional Gladiator.
Oh, man, this
Easily
would be
one
tough
of
to
the most
win,
unfair
too.
matchups of the Coliseum was when prisoners would face off against a professional and seasoned gladiator. The professional gladiator could have been a slave himself with many fights.
Is the game fun though? I'm about to get that shit. Is it fun? It's a high school together and he's still mad. Why don't he want to play with you? He can still play with you now. It's not that big of a deal.
Under his belt, seasoned gladiator. The professional gladiator could have been a slave himself with many fights under his belt, or a volunteer gladiator that was part of one of the many gladiatorial schools. Either way, the criminal with 0 to no experience was basically sentenced to death.
Got murked.
You see, what could be worse than being invaded, enslaved, and kept inside of a cell for days?
You're
Just
hungry.
to be given a weapon you have never used, then pushed to the center of the Colosseum floor. Only for Spartacus to make his walkout shortly after you. Number 1, rigged.
That would be, nigga, you are hungry, delirious, fucking all dry in the mouth, and then you got a prime Mike Tyson in the corner waiting for you talking about get up, nigga. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Please help me. No. Listen. Nah, you're gonna get this ass whooping, boy. You know how Mike Tyson got that? Yeah, man, beat your ass, boy. You said I didn't appreciate him for being himself. I just called him childish for being mad. For real. That's kind of crazy. So now he don't want to play at all.
Fights. What could be more unfair than rigged matches? Emperor Commodus was definitely the worst offender when it came to rigged matches. The emperor ruled Rome from 180 to 192 AD and was even portrayed by Joaquin Phoenix in the 2000 film Gladiator.
What?
Commodus was
This is
obsessed
him?
with becoming a famous and well-respected gladiator.
He's the nigga from Gladiator?
So much so that he would even compete himself. Well, if you could even call it that.
What?
An emperor fighting as a...
You know he had that bitch set up, bro. You know, that nigga just wanted to look. It's like them Vince McMahon wrestling matches, you know? It's not really real. But he probably had... There's probably Emperor versus Dwarfs in there type shit, nigga. Emperor on the elephant against the dwarf. Who will win? He didn't want to be friends anymore, like at all. That's crazy. What are you talking about? It's just a game. Tell him it's just a video game. They're going to make many games.
Gladiator was unheard of. Now, of course,
And tell him he got to get off his period. Got his panties in a knot.
Commodus had the best training in all of Rome and was actually very talented with a sword.
Okay.
But that wouldn't stop him from rigging fights by secretly injuring men just moments before they were brought out to face him. His opponents were injured in a way that could be concealed under their armor, but be devastating enough to hinder their performance or make a limb unusable. Another strategy that the emperor would use was simply fighting men with 0 to no experience, making for another easy W. Emperor Commodus
Why
would
did he
have
make
the
him look
longest
like that?
undefeated record as a gladiator.
What's
and
his
it's
record?
suspected that he competed
What's his
hundreds of
record?
times.
What's
He
the
would also
record?
charge the Roman treasury around 25,000 pieces of silver every time he competed. There are
Now that's a bag getter right there. That boy's about his fucking paper. Hundreds of matches, 25K per match. What are you talking about right now? This nigga, all he knows is the bag, bro. And he's the emperor. And he the king, bro. He whooping niggas ass, and he the king, and he getting the money while doing it. Bro, come on. You can't even complain. They should have made the movie about him, nigga. I don't know why they made the movie about the Gladiator. They should have made a movie about him, nigga. Joaquin Phoenix, goddamn. He said he still doesn't care, so I lost all my friends. No, because you still have friends. You got a friend in me, like that Toy Story song says.
There are many things you could call Emperor Commodus, but one thing you can't say is that he ever discriminated. Since animals were also injured and thrown in to face him.
Yeah!
Apparently, he killed hundreds of lions, ostriches, some giraffes.
Oh,
and on one occasion,
that
even
nigga
killed 3
crazy!
elephants that were just laying on the floor.
Are we giving him that? Are we giving him that if they're just laying on the floor? Hey, he killed them.
Now, as horrible as this all sounds,
I don't like
this
that-
was all
I don't like
just
that
a
one.
warm-up. And in November of
What?
192 AD, he held the Polybian Games, a festival that lasted around 2 weeks.
2
There, Commodus
weeks.
shot hundreds of animals with arrows and javelins every single day. But if it makes you feel any better, 1 month after the Polybian Games, Commodus would be strangled to death inside of his bathtub by a professional wrestler named Narcissus. Which, for a man, that has to be the most embarrassing way to be found dead. Completely
Choked.
naked inside of a cold tub.
Oh my
You
gosh.
can't even explain your way out of that one.
Damn, they took him out by choking him? I thought he was a real ass nigga. Man. He trained fighter. How you let somebody sneak up on you in a bathtub? Nigga, that's kind of crazy. How you let a grown-ass man come up behind you in a bathtub, put you in a headlock? He was probably trying to do some nasty, freaky shit, bro. He was probably fucking just fucking gross. He said, but I don't have anyone to finish split fiction with. I'm like, 3